Well, what a fun trailer,
Oh,
Novocaine. Looks like
thanks.
it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
We,
it
we
is.
think it is.
Yeah.
So you gotta get the right person, and Jack Quaid seems to be that right person, right? He can balance the seriousness and the comedic aspect of it, right?
Oh yeah.
Yes, big time. Jack is one of the most talented actors we've ever had the privilege of working with, and it was funny because when we came onto the project and took our pass on the script, we were writing a lot of new dialogue and a lot of new scenes, and there's two of us, so whenever we do something like that, we sort of try to agree on who's the moonshot idea, who's the actor that we want to write in the voice of, and we were watching The Boys at the time, and we thought Jack Quaid would just be perfect for this, so we decided to do it in Jack Quaid's voice. And it's so rare that you make that selection at the screenwriting process and then actually get to work with that person. It's almost never happened. It's happened once or twice to us, but it's very rare. And we're just so lucky that that happened on this one because, yeah, Jack is the perfect person to embody all of Nate's quirks and all of the physical challenges that come with making an action movie like this.
Mhm.
I love the boys, so it's like
Oh yeah.
the
Yeah.
perfect
Yes,
thing.
100%. Yeah,
Hmm.
It's in his wheelhouse.
very
Exactly.
much. Very much.
I also like the casting of Amber Hunter. She was badass in Prey. So
Oh yeah.
I'm glad to see her in more movies because we don't see that kind of diversity, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Amber is just such an incredible actor and an incredible person, and just an incredible advocate for Native communities and stuff like that. She's just a wonderful human being, and it's great because I feel like a lot of people have seen her, mainly in Prey, Legion, some of that, and this is a nice opportunity to see a different side of her, where obviously in Prey, she spends a lot of that movie on her own, out in the woods, and is just fighting and whatnot. And so you get to see a little bit more of a contemporary human side
Yeah.
of Amber in this film, and she's just such a magnetic personality on screen, and the camera just loves her. She's one of those actors it's just fun to watch her act, and the chemistry that she had with Jack was that's the thing you can't ever really plan for, and we just got so lucky because they have such different and complementary looks and vibes, and it just right from the first scene that we shot with the two of them together, from the first rehearsal that we had with the two of them, we knew that we had something special there.
Nah, the possibilities of having somebody who doesn't feel any pain is just so much fun, right? Like going through
Yeah.
the script. I mean, it was just like all the possibilities that can happen.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
mean it's one of those things where it's when you have such like a sticky and clearly like a communicable concept like that, it's sort of just so fun to get to the page and start writing and be brainstorming with your best buddy about this because it's like you can kind of think of 1,000 different things that would be viable fun set pieces and also the fact and this is something we had to kind of work with while we were writing and while we were in prep the fact that this is a real condition. He's a human being. He's not a superhero. He doesn't have any kind of like fast regeneration healing things going on. So he can still die.
Yeah.
So we had to, once we actually got into prep, there was a whole process. We're working with our stunt team and our special effects and prosthetics teams where we mapped out like every single wound that he takes during this movie. And we looked at Bobby and I looked at every single hit and we were like, talk to our stunt teams about like, okay, he gets wrapped on the side of the head there with a gun butt. Like, would that knock somebody out? And it's like, okay, well, what if we moved it a little bit back? Or what if we turned that into a body blow? Because we obviously didn't want anything to feel too insanely unrealistic where people will be rolling their eyes in the theaters if he just keeps on going and going because he's a normal guy. So that was a really kind of like, it was a fun challenge, honestly, to like rein some of that in to the point that it would still feel realistic to a sufficient degree.
Yeah, and you have to find, if you're gonna push the gore of a certain scene to a level that it might require a patch up scene after that and things like that. You have to keep a map of everything that's going on. And when it's done right, it's great because it's actually this nice little roadmap of where you've been in the movie. You can just look at his body and be like, oh yeah, there's the deep fried hand, there's this and that. And so I think the other fun part of that was just the acting challenge that it was for Jack. You go your whole life acting, and every movie you've ever been in, when you get punched in the face, it hurts and you're wincing or whatever. And so him having to unlearn that and work with our stunt coordinator, Stanimir Stamatov, just to really make sure that at no point in this movie is he flinching due to pain, which is such a natural thing that your body wants to do when you're acting. And so finding the right balance where he's not reacting to the pain, but he's not, just an emotional blank slate like he's the T-1000 or something either. Finding that balance was really fun, and I think I like to think Jack had a good time doing that, and it wasn't too annoying.
Well, I've interviewed him in the past, and he says he gets the brunt of the blood on him in The Boys.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's getting the repeat treatment here, right? Did you ever
absolutely.
notice about that?
Yeah, he had to go through
course.
a lot. There's a lot of prosthetics. He spent a lot of time in the chair. He was oftentimes one of the first people on set because he had to be in that trailer for a while, getting made up in all kinds of different ways. And so the patience that and dedication that he displayed there, we will forever be in his debt.
I can already see a sequel. There's so many possibilities. This guy could be a spy because even if they torture him, it doesn't matter.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah, you should tell Paramount that.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Okay, so what was the most challenging action scene or stunts for you guys?
It's a little bit hard to say without getting into spoiler territory, but some of the philosophy of some of these set pieces was very much like bull in a china shop type thing, where like because he can endure pain, you can kind of make these set pieces like a little bit more bombastic and have him being thrown through things and things crashing down and all this stuff. And I think the most challenging thing, which is a little bit boring, is when you do a set piece that requires a lot of art resets, where it's like, oh, if this item is shattering into 10,000 pieces, it's like in order to take two, you're like sweeping and resetting the set.
A great example of that is the fight scene in the kitchen that we see in the trailer,
right?
Because there were so many items in that kitchen, and throughout the life of that fight scene, he's just being tossed around, and lots of shit is getting knocked over, and so the reset time of putting the whole kitchen back together again for the next take, that was tough. And also the restaurant that we shot that in just smelled really funny, and we were there for like many days.
Yeah, if after the movie comes out, we'd be able to answer this with a little bit more specificity, but we don't want to spoil any specific stunts. There are certainly some that are stunts, even when they're handled safely, sometimes are make your stomach tighten on set because you don't want to hurt a stunt performer or something. Like sometimes it's unavoidable that a performer is going to have to put themselves in some small level of risk, at least of pulling a muscle or something. So those are often the things that are like hardest for us to be at the monitor watching, when a human being is throwing themselves across a room for your movie or whatever. But thankfully there were, no severe injuries on set.
No major injuries.
Yeah, that hand, the frozen hand looked gnarly. I was like, oh, that looks so gross.
Yeah.
So you can promise us gore, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's plenty of that. But if you've watched The Boys, it's nothing you haven't seen before,
Yeah. No, it fits in comedically, right? I can't handle like the hostile movies. Those I can't handle.
Yeah. No. It's there's some gory stuff. There's a couple of points that you'll probably, flinch a bit, but it's not designed to it's not a total gross out movie, like those moments are used in narratively purposeful ways.
Well, and they're always underpinned by like the emotional motivation. I think sometimes those movies can get a little bit a little off-putting depending on the audience when it's just like gore for gore's sake. And we always made sure to balance that where like you're remembering this guy is fighting for something that he really cares about, that is relatable, that is a universal truth that I think most audience members will be able to relate to, going really far for someone.
And most of the time, the violence and the gore is then paired with something comedic right after as a palate cleanser, a little piece of ginger.
And when these trailers first come out, do you get really nervous? Do you go online and look at what the reaction is, or you kind of stay offline?
No, it is super stressful, and I'm sure that we will be sitting there, reading comments and looking at view counts. As much as we say we won't, we know we will.
Luckily, I at least on our last movie, Eric, it's like once it becomes too overwhelming where you can't like actually read all the things, then I find it easy to sort of tune out. It's just in those first few days when you're like you know, starting to see the stuff coming. It's very hard
Right.
to avoid the online
I also
commentary.
I also think that the, you know, the action movie community is, you know, a fun, forgiving, like, you know, people are, you know, people want the movie to do well. They want to have a good time. You know, I think people for the most part really like Jack Quaid. He's a really incredible, nice person. And I think, you know, and so I think it is it's a positive kind of environment. You know, I think it's different than, I'm sure that if you make a big Marvel movie or something like that, you have these super fans that are going to obsess over every little detail and what did you do according to the comic book, what did you not. But the fact that this is like an original concept, it's not based on IP, it's not a sequel to something, I would hope that a lot of people out there would be, you know, rooting for it to do well, so that we can see more movies like that.
Yeah, I think they're gonna have fun with it. I think it's such an original idea, and just so many, you know, just to think of all these things that can, the possibilities, you know. So I
Yeah.
think it'd be a good reaction. So
Yeah.
congratulations on Stranger. Can't wait for everybody to see it.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Lupe.
Great
Pleasure
to
meeting
meet
you.
you, Lupe.
Thanks for your time.